Well, now to a group of Australians locked in prisons indefinitely without being convicted of crimes. Tonight we'll focus on a young Aboriginal woman now languishing in a Kalgoorlie jail. Rosie Ann Fulton has spent the past 18 months in the West Australian prison without a conviction after she was charged with driving offences. The magistrate in her case declared her unfit to plead because she's intellectually impaired, a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome. The Aboriginal Disability Justice Campaign says there are at least 30 Aboriginal people in Rosie Ann's situation Australia-wide. A plea to Northern Territory authorities to house Rosie Ann in special accommodation close to her Alice Springs family has been rejected. This exclusive report from John Stewart.
This prison near the West Australian town of Kalgoorlie is home to 23-year-old Rosie Ann Fulton, an Aboriginal woman born with fetal alcohol syndrome. She has the intellectual capacity of a young child.
Yeah, well, she was born in Alice Springs in '89 with fetal alcohol-related brain damage, but she was moved by her parents back out to Central Australian, homelands. It's a tri-state region that's covered by NT, WA and South Australia, and that's where she was brought up all through her early childhood on various communities.
18 months ago, Rosie Ann Fulton crashed a stolen car in Western Australia after a heavy drinking session. A psychiatric report found that she was intellectually impaired and the magistrate considered her unfit to plead.
She fell foul of WA law, mostly motor vehicle related offence, unlawfully using a car, damaging the car, ended up in the Kalgoorlie court, was found unfit to be tried and ended up on a prison-based supervision order, and that's because there was no alternatives available in that area.
Ian McKinlay is Rosie Ann's legal guardian. For the past 18 months, he's been trying to get her moved to Alice Springs to be closer to her family. Today he's in Alice Springs and keeps in touch with her on the phone.
Oh, she rings several times a week, sometimes twice a day, wanting to know when she's coming back to live in Alice Springs.
Ian McKinlay is a retired police officer who worked in the Central Australian town of Papunya in the 1970s and 80s. Rosie Ann Fulton spent her teenage years living in the riverbeds around Alice Springs.
If you live in this stretch of riverbed, about 2 kilometres between the telegraph station and the gap and then the neighbouring hills and scrub either side, while ever she had cash or alcohol or her own sexual favour to offer, they'd accept her for a while, usually overnight. Come daylight, they'd drive her off with violence, and most occasions she'd end up in the Alice Springs Hospital with assault-related injury.
Will McGregor runs an alcohol and drug rehabilitation service for young people in Alice Springs.
We've had Rosie Ann walk off the Anzac Hill here, brought here by the rangers, the town rangers, who had been hit by a car the night before with a broken foot and a stab wound in the shoulder. So I'm not quite sure how we can allow that to happen in our society.
Last year, the Northern Territory Health Department agreed to move Rosie Ann to this secure care facility built next to the Alice Springs prison. The centre was specifically designed to house people with intellectual disabilities and challenging behaviours. Ian McKinlay says he received repeated assurances from the Northern Territory Health Department that Rosie Ann would be moved here last year.
They identified her as a prime candidate for secure care, and they rejected any other form of service that guardians were advocating for pending the completion of this facility.
But in February this year, he received a new letter from the Northern Territory Health Department, this time rejecting Rosie Ann. The letter states that she is not compatible with the male residents staying at the centre.
From a clinical risk management perspective, the risk posed to Ms Fulton's safety were she transferred to the facility are untenable.
But when it came to the crunch at the last minute, they said, no, we're not providing a service.
A spokeswoman for the Northern Territory Department of Health said in a statement,
NT secure care facilities are not gender specific. The Department of Health always holds the health and wellbeing of clients as paramount. Due to its responsibility to client privacy, the department is unable to provide comment on specific client circumstances, treatment or care.
Legal aid lawyer Mark O'Reilly says that Rosie Ann's story is not unique, and intellectually impaired Aboriginal people can spend years in prison without a conviction because of a lack of healthcare facilities.
We've had situations, for example, where following the ordinary process, someone might be looking at 3 or 4 months in prison. We've had people in jail for 4 or 5 years just waiting for an outcome.
Whether it's secure care or supported accommodation options, the models are out there, and a lot of people have been advocating those models for a lot of years, but it seems that, again, it comes back to, sort of global financial crisis, tightened budgets, etc. And maybe a hardening of hearts.
Rosie Ann's family want her moved closer to Alice Springs so they can help her.
I want to talk to this girl when she comes out. I'll tell her, "Oh, you're a pretty girl, you can have a better life, get work, jobs, settle down and work in the community." That's what I want her to do.
At the moment, this outcome is almost entirely reserved for Aboriginal and Indigenous Australians. Rare exceptions, but in the Northern Territory, all Indigenous, very similar in WA.
For now, Rosie Ann Fulton will remain in jail in Kalgoorlie indefinitely, without a conviction, and without knowing if or when she will return to Alice Springs. John Stewart, Lateline.